Hey YouTube, this is Terrell and I'm back with another video. If this is your first time watching, I want to say welcome to the journey. Today's video is going to be a fun and exciting video. It's going to be the 5 things that I wish I knew before becoming a school social worker. As you may or may not know, I am a school social worker here in North Carolina. As of March of this year, I recently transitioned to that role where I'll be working at an elementary school. I was asked to come back, so I will be returning back to that school August of this year. So hopefully I'm looking to have more videos, more content surrounding my journey as a school social worker. If this is your first time watching, again, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more videos. Drop down below in the comments if you are an aspiring social worker, current social worker, or if you're just passing by. Let me know how you think of the video, and also drop down any suggestions for any videos for the future. Again, stay tuned for more videos and enjoy. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with this video. So the first thing that I wish I knew before becoming a school social worker is that it is a one-man or one-woman show, if that makes sense. And what I mean by being a one-man show is that in your building, you're going to be the only school social worker there. So it's going to be very important that you definitely educate those around you on what your role is and what your responsibilities and your job duties consist of. A lot of times administrators don't know exactly what the school social worker does or what they can and cannot do. So you have to be careful that you don't say yes to everything, but also make sure you have that balance to say, you know what, that's not in my job description, but how can I best support you? Or you can say, I can't do that, but I can support XYZ, and I will turn back over to the family so I can support the family in this particular way. So I guess also another pro is that you're going to be considered the expert. So, you're able to have a great influence when it comes to certain evidence-based practices or interventions that can be utilized within the school. So that's another pro to being the only person or the only school social worker there, especially if they don't really know what your job entails. And don't abuse that, of course. Make sure that you're not creating harm, but also take it as an opportunity to educate, so that first and foremost you can get buy-in, but also get support at the same time. So you will be the lone man or one-man show, one-woman show in your building. Of course, that depends on your district and your school size. So that leads to number 2 is that there is a difference between the generalist school social worker and the McKinneyVento school social worker. And if you don't know what McKinneyVento is, if you are an aspiring school social worker or you're in grad school, definitely look up that legislative policy. So basically, summarize what McKinneyVento is. That is basically a policy that was passed into legislation many years ago that basically provides protections and regulations for families who are currently in transition, or what the policy says. And of course, I'm summarizing, it basically states for any family that lacks fixed, adequate nighttime residence. These are families that live in their cars, they're doubling up with family members or friends, living in shelters, hotels, or in transition in general. We're able to provide supports to those families, basically to eliminate barriers. That's basically what the policy details. So depending on the number of students or families who are in transition, your district may have a McKinneyVento school social worker in the building specifically for those families. And then, of course, the generalist school social worker that addresses the generalist social work needs. So that's attendance, truancy, dropout prevention, of course, providing support and resources, and all that entails for school social work. So definitely making sure if when you're applying for jobs, if you see that McKinneyVento, okay, that it's a difference. If it says school social work, that's typically the generalist school social worker, and typically you will serve as the MCV liaison for that school or your school. So that's my number 2. My number 3 is that it can become costly. I laugh with that one. It can become costly when it comes to obtaining licensure for your school social work license. Typically, it depends on your state, but for me in my state where I live in, North Carolina, You typically have to take, I think, 3 school social work courses, one being the school social work course in particular, and then 2 school social work based electives. And then either if you're in grad school, complete your field placement in school social work, or if you're post grad school, be working as a school social worker for at least 1 year before you obtain the licensure process or licensure for the state. So for me, I'm lucky that all I have to take is 1 course, which has cost me about $800. So imagine if you had to take all 3 courses because you post-grad and you didn't take any of those base electives, school social work based electives in school. I mean, it's about $2,500 out of pocket. And then for my district, they don't reimburse. So I'm paying out of pocket, but it is a good investment, going to great need. You become licensed, and that allows you to, first and foremost, if you want to move around the state that you're currently living in, of course, you can transfer on. I don't think, at least, you're able to do that, of course. So it is a good investment in the long run, but initially, if you're just starting that role and you get adjusted to the pay, as far as getting paid monthly, I get paid monthly, so that's a big adjustment, to come out of pocket with that much money and not being reimbursed. But it's okay. It's okay. All right, that leads to number 4, which is basically, I knew that there's going to be collaboration with school support staff, but I was not aware on the level of collaboration. And when I mean the level of collaboration, I'm speaking to my collaboration with my school psychologist. So of course, school psychologists, it's a whole nother realm of things and what they do and what they provide support for our, children and families. But one thing that I would collaborate with her on, or my school psychologist on, is that for our families who are receiving EC or special education services, we will work together to complete the social histories for the families, which is basically a psychosocial assessment. I think that's pretty cool because I get to, first and foremost, build up my skill set and knowledge base when it comes to families who are receiving special education services, but also get to learn and pick my school psychologist's brain when it comes to special education, when it comes to certain techniques and evidence-based practices, as well as some of the assessment tools that she utilized to complete her evaluation. So definitely excited for that collaboration piece. So definitely, if you're looking to become a school social worker, I definitely recommend that you look into what the role of a school counselor is, what the role of the school psychologist is, and any other school support staff that may be in your school when it comes to that collaboration piece in your particular role. Now, number five. So for me, I put that crises are inevitable. And what I mean by that is, of course, working with families, especially families, of low income or low socioeconomic status, crises probably happen all the time, right? But I think for me and my experience is that crises, happened not just with the children and families, but with school staff as well. In my time, short 2 months of me working, we had a teacher death that was sudden. And this teacher had been there for many, many years. And of course, to maintain confidentiality, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but going again, school support staff, the school social worker there, school counselor, on the school counselor there. So we're deemed as the experts. And in this particular setting, or this particular situation, we was considered the expert. They looked to us to say, okay, how can we support not just our staff, but our children, and notifying them of this staff member's death and supporting them. But luckily for our school, we do have a crisis response team that came out and provided support to us and direction and guidance. But I said it to say is that you don't know what's going to happen. Typically we think crisis, we think, like I said, think of, your children, the family that you work with, but not a staff member, and the in-depths of that and how that impacts the whole entire school. So not only was we providing support for our students, but also provide support for our coworkers and our staff as well. So That's my fifth one, that crises are inevitable. It can happen to anyone, anytime, not just to children and families, but also to those you work with, your coworkers. So these are my 5 things I wish I knew before coming to school social worker. If you like what you see, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more video. If you are a school social worker, in the comments below, tell me what the 5 things that you wish you knew before becoming a school social worker. Again, if you have any suggestions for any future videos, drop those down below in the comments as well. I will be sure to check those out and take into consideration for any future videos. Again, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more videos, and stay tuned for more.